Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm reviewing my 1999 Jaguar XKR. This is actually the fourth Jag that I've owned, but the first XKR. I've always loved the design of these and the fact that they have a supercharged V8 in them, who doesn't? But I've always wondered, now that they're pretty much 30 years old, how do they stack up in terms of ownership experience and performance in today's world? And as I drive off, I think perhaps the first thing I'd say is just how good this car looks from the outside. I think it looks great. Really excellent design, has stood the test of time really well, well proportioned, looks good from all angles, and hasn't aged nearly as badly as many other 90s cars, that's for sure. The Jaguar XKR, the X100 platform as it was called, was the long-awaited replacement for the Jaguar XJS, which had been around since the 1970s. The XKR went into production in 1996. It was available only as a coupe and convertible with a naturally aspirated V8 engine, so a new V8, the AJ V8 that Jaguar produced to replace the much heavier but slightly more powerful V12 from the XJS. That gave 290 horsepower, and it wasn't until it was supercharged that it exceeded the XJS's power output. So that supercharger was a slightly upgraded one over the XJR of the time, and it gave 370 horsepower in this, the XKR model. That came along in 1998. And the XKR was mated to a 5-speed Mercedes gearbox as opposed to the 5-speed ZF gearbox, which could be slightly problematic in the XK8. There were some shared underpinnings with the XJS still, much like DB7. Despite the shared underpinnings, the torsional rigidity of the XKR was 25% greater than in the XJS, so much better around the corners. The XKR also effectively shared the same rear end setup as the XJ of the time, the X300 platform. You've got that big bonnet hinged at the bumper, of course, with the additional air vents in it for the XKR, for the supercharged V8. There were a couple of facelifts to the X100 platform, the most notable of which came in 2002 with major mechanical upgrades. Chiefly the 4-litre engine was upgraded to the 4.2-litre version, more powerful, giving almost 400 horsepower over the 370 of the 4-litre, and also there were no longer any Nikasil liner problems with that engine. It also had an updated ZF 6-speed box, which was a big improvement actually on this 5-speed. I actually have the ZF 6-speed with that 4.2-litre supercharged engine in my 2003 XJ Super V8, and it's a great combination. It is significantly better and feels more modern, more powerful, and functions a lot better, I would say, than this setup. It's a lovely place to be though, the XKR. I mean, it's obviously a slightly dated interior, but it still feels lovely to be here. So this quite large, actually, wooden steering wheel. We've got different trims you could get on the dash. This is a kind of dark wood. You could get different colours. I think you could also get a carbon fibre option. We've got lovely clear dials, including battery voltage, which is fairly rare to see on cars nowadays. Nice clear gauges. We've got some electronic display as well in the centre, mileage, etc. And actually there's a fair amount of tech considering this is a 1999 car. We've got a multi-function steering wheel for the telephone, which you got at the time, also for the cruise control and the volume, etc. Obviously we've got a tape deck, a 6 CD changer in the boot, we've got air conditioning, cruise control. So we also have a sport function here in the centre, which obviously hangs onto gears longer when you're in the sport second compared with normal. The seats are very comfortable. I do feel like I'm sitting quite high in the car though. It's a very low and sleek car obviously, but I feel like I'm perched up a bit inside it, if I'm honest. As I've said, this is a 1999 car, very high mileage. The seats have held up reasonably well. There's obviously signs of wear, but among the better seats that I've experienced, I have to say. Multiple adjustments on it, so electrically adjustable, sliding forwards, backwards, lumbar support, all electrically adjusted. We've also got an electrically adjustable steering wheel, so you can get comfortable in here no matter what. Again, I think this is great spec for the time for a 90s car. Electric mirrors, electric windows. So this is obviously a front-engined rear-wheel drive car and a 2+2 layout. So for all there are 2 seats in the back and they look very nice, there really is very limited legroom. Unless you are a very small child, you won't be getting in those seats. So 2 seats by name only, I would suggest. It's a glorified parcel shelf, but it's quite spacious in the front, and actually you get a fair sized boot in this car as well. So what's it like in terms of driving, performance, comfort, handling, etc.? Well, we'll start with the comfort. I think it scores pretty highly on the comfort. It soaks up the bumps pretty well while still retaining a decent level of body control. I think the important thing to remember with this car is it's really a GT car and not an out-and-out sports car. So I think if you remember, this is meant to be a cruiser rather than the last word in handling, then you'll be all right. And something I didn't say actually is that this car is on the standard 18-inch alloys. There were also options for 19 and 20-inch wheels on the XKR. I believe if you got the upgraded brakes, you needed the 20-inch BBS split rims, which look great. They're massive though, and they will impact ride quality because of the smaller tyre walls. So I think this being on 18s adds to that good quality of ride. And in terms of performance, it's good. To me, this doesn't feel anywhere near 370 horsepower, so I'm not sure how many horses this may have lost along the way. But being supercharged, of course, you've got grunt, torque, wherever you want it in the rev range, so it's good to rev out, but actually you really don't need to. And the style of the car is also suited to the fact that it's supercharged. You can waft along with power, you know, right down at below 2000 RPM, for example. You never really need to push this car hard to still get decent level of performance. And that performance is decent without being electrifying, I would say. As I say, I think this may have lost a few horses over the last almost 30 years. It's also not helped by the gearbox, which is very old tech, very slow to change, not brilliant at downshifts, and also not helped by the fact that this is 1650 kilograms, so not exactly a lightweight. And of course, this J-gate shifter has become really iconic for Jaguar. I think it looks great and it functions okay. I'm never particularly sold on these as a manual shifter. Obviously you can use it like this and it will restrict the uppermost gear the gearbox will select. It's okay, but it doesn't really work that well in my opinion. It's just not very user-friendly, so I'd be very surprised if anyone really uses J-gate shifters for manual shifting. I will, however, if I'm going to overtake and I want to make sure I'm in that power band, I will use this just to make sure I've got the shove if I don't have much space to get by someone, for example. The other thing I'd say is there seems to be quite a lot of slack before you get much happening with the throttle pedal. Again, I'm not sure whether that's unique to this car and perhaps a quirk of it, but it's not the most responsive throttle pedal, that's for sure. So coming up to some twisty stuff here, and it feels decent. The brakes are good. It's got decent body control. It does go where you put it. It's fairly responsive, but you know, it's definitely a GT and not an out-and-out sports car. But that's fine. That's what it was meant for. And it's still decent fun around this twisty stuff. The body control is actually quite a bit better, and the turning is better. Certainly not as direct as I'd like it, but yeah, good fun. I'm reasonably impressed with it. The steering is, you get a little bit of feel, it's a bit inert, and it's not very direct. I would prefer perhaps a slightly quicker rack in this. I think it would make a bit of a difference to the turning in corners. It's just slightly vague. Having said that, as I've just said, this isn't meant to be the last word in handling. It's a cruiser, and with that in mind, I think it kind of suits the style of the car and what it's about. The thing I would say, just again, this wheel is too big for the twisty stuff. If this wheel was a bit smaller, I think it would make it feel overall a bit less cumbersome around these corners. But as I've said, I'm pretty impressed with it. The way it handles, it's good fun. My major criticisms about the driving would actually be the seating position and the steering wheel. The rest, I think, is a nice balance between sporty handling, grand touring and cruising, and still being fairly decent in the corners. So how does it stack up then in today's world? The first thing to say is perhaps these were expensive cars when they were new in the 90s, £60,000 or so back then, really expensive. Maintenance bills are still, therefore, going to be big. They don't become cheap overnight to run. So if you are going to buy one, be aware they're almost 30 years old. They are going to have some problems, mechanical, electrical, rust issues, etc. These rust like crazy around the sills and the arches. So go in with your eyes open, that's all I'm saying. For all they may be cheap to buy, they probably won't be cheap to run. In part because they were expensive and parts are expensive, and in part just because of their age. Having said that, what's it like to own and drive now? Well, I mean, I'm impressed. For the money you pay for one of these now, I think it's good value. It's a supercharged V8. How many cars can you buy with that for under $5,000, say? It's brilliant at just wafting along using that supercharged V8 torque in really pretty good comfort. It's a great cruiser. It's also good fun to drive still, and it's fun around the corners. I think it's sleek and elegant. I really like the styling, and it's practical as well. You know, as long as you don't have children and there's only 2 of you, it's fine. There's decent boot space. As a daily car, it's very comfortable and usable and practical. So yeah, it's still a good buy. Like I say, if you want something a bit different, you don't want to follow the trends of modern cars, I think this is a great buy for the money. Just be aware it may cost you a little bit more in upkeep than a modern car. So there you go, having owned it a little while, I'm really pleased that I've bought this and own it. I enjoy the ownership experience and the driving experience, and it's a lovely car. Please let me know your thoughts on the car in the comments, and thank you very much for watching.